Yes, sir, ladies and gents. Once again, we are back. Rooted in Sports Thursday. Always a pleasure. King Tiberius Swan Dunn in the building, man.
What's going on?
We're gonna hit y'all with a fair share of basketball today with the NBA season ending. Obviously, we have crowned new NBA champions, first time in their franchise history. The Denver Nuggets are your 2023 NBA champions. So we're gonna give you a little bit of a finals recap. Possibly look ahead to the future a little bit. Can Denver or do they have what it takes to repeat? What can Miami do to upgrade and possibly get over the hump or get back to the finals out of the East? So we're gonna kind of a little heavy on the basketball today.
Might
And
as
then
well.
obviously we can't go without doing some NFL. And so
Mhm.
one of the real hot topics right now is this Saquon Barkley contract situation. Saquon Barkley, star running back for the New York Giants. He seems to be held out of OTAs right now. He definitely wants a new contract. So we're gonna kind of get into that and just kind of discuss what's going on from there and who really has the leverage in that situation. So should be a really good show today. Won't be before you extremely long. Brother Tiberius, how you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. I'm ready to talk about. I'm ready to kind of talk my trash because I remember I predicted that I knew Denver had a chance. I said Denver had a chance about
Man,
a year ago, and I got shot down about it. But hey, he got the help he needed, so it's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk about it and stuff like that, and just we're gonna have some fun with it.
we are, man. So yeah, man. Without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into this intro and let's get it going.
Let's do it.
Once
And just
again,
like back.
yeah.
Hey, all right. So look, kind of jumping into things. You know, we just saw Denver win their first ever NBA championship. Um, in impressive fashion. I mean, we can go ahead and be honest. This is one of the more dominant postseason runs by a team ever, right? Especially in the Western Conference. With we look at guys like Dirk and um, Kobe and some of the things that they've done in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they ended
What
up
does
winning 11 of their last. I think they were 16-4. They ended up winning.
Mhm.
I want to say 11 of their last 12 games.
Right. And I okay, and I'll say this. I felt like we haven't seen a number one seed get disrespected the way that they've been disrespected in
Agreed.
quite some time. I mean, even when the Lakers, it was everyone was like, oh, Lakers in 6, and I'm like, man, you guys, this was the number one team in the Western Conference for most
Yeah.
of the season,
And I was going to say, especially seeing a number one seed out of the Western Conference be disrespected like this.
Yeah. I mean, even against, you even seeing people in the media, I'm not going to mention any names, but,
Mm-hmm.
people in the media saying, oh, I still got the heat and this, that, and the third. So very, very much so disrespected, but they always remain humble. And they always put their head down and they put in the work. They put in the work to earn this and get this. What does this championship mean? And from your opinion, what does this championship mean for the city of Denver? And how were they able to do it?
Oh man, it means a lot, man. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, this is the first championship in Denver Nugget history.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you go down the line of some of their franchise greats from the obviously Carmelo Anthony, even going back to Alex English. Chauncey
So,
Billups had some good years there.
so just so I can interject and make sure everyone's clear, this is their first finals appearance.
I believe this is their first finals appearance and first championship. Yes,
Wow.
in their franchise's history, which spans back. Don't even get me the line, but first finals appearance, first championship ring for the franchise. Um, and they've been around for quite a while. So as far as for the city of Denver, for diehard Denver Nugget fans, I mean, this has to be awesome, And I think, who I don't think anyone would have thought that this cast of guys would be the one to do it, because
Yeah.
especially, and I'm gonna just speak from my lifetime, going back and seeing some of those former Denver teams. Like I remember when they had like Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony on the same team, Chauncey Billups running the point,
You seem more
Marcus Camby,
you seem more talented Denver team, more gifted.
Yeah, definitely teams that were more thought to have a chance of, winning a title than probably this team was coming into the season. As the season went along, slowly but surely, you seen a few people hopping on the bandwagon. But as you mentioned, man, they were, for the most part, for a team that pretty much held the number one seed in the Western Conference for the majority of the season. And then even throughout their playoff run, they were really disrespected. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure people had them getting past Minnesota. No one had them getting past Phoenix, and no one really had them getting past the Lakers. Everybody kind of fell on that Lakers bandwagon and everything, and Denver just continued to prove individuals wrong. And so I think that's what makes it even that much sweeter, not just for the team, but for the city. The fact that they really were the underdog. They were almost like Rocky in a sense. You know what I'm saying? They were legit underdogs, got it through the mud, a team that stuck together. Like Mike Malone has been their coach for 8 years in a time, in an era where we see coaches come and go like this. They firing coaches for less,
Mm-hmm.
And to see him, to see Denver stick with him, to see them stick with that duo of Jamal Murray, of Nikola Jokic, even after Jamal Murray missed the better part of 2 seasons with injuries. They stuck with him. To stick with a Michael Porter Jr. who had been struggling with back issues since college, to see them really hone in and stick to this core, make a couple key signings in Aaron Gordon year before last. This here offseason, bringing in KCP, bringing in Bruce Brown, drafting Christian Braun, to see them, stick to their core and just add a few pieces here and there, but stick to their morals, and to see them come out on top, it has to mean a lot for not just the team, but for the city.
And you mentioned something, Mike Malone being there for 8 seasons. That says a lot about that organization. Mm-hmm. And that they dug in with him. They said, hey, look, this is our guy. We're going to dig in with him, and we're going to give him every chance to win an NBA championship. And they gave him the players that he needed to get it done.
Yeah.
And this year we saw, and it's funny because I think this is probably 2 to 3 years past due, but it was always Michael Porter Jr. was hurt. Or we had Jamal Murray who was hurt. I think the bubble was when we kind of figured like, okay, this Denver team is really turning around, and they possibly could have been this a little bit sooner, but it got delayed because you had some key players get injured. But just the fact that organization was able to dig in with Mike Malone and really give him a chance, let the players come back, let them get back healthy, and give him a full cover to see what he had to work with, I think that's just impressive.
And then you couple that with the constant improvement of Nikola Jokic. Like every year he's better and better. Obviously, as you've said numerous times, I've been on him since probably 2017, 2018. You know what I'm saying? I seen it in the guy,
You have.
To see just the constant improvement that he makes, coming off of back-to-back MVPs, and you could argue that he probably deserved it more this season, than he did in his previous 2 back-to-back MVP winning seasons. I mean, Mike Malone, the team sticking with Mike Malone. Mike Malone's a damn good coach.
He is.
I think this ring for Mike Malone, for Nikola Jokic, it's to today is probably the biggest stamp on their resume. It gives them respect from a historical aspect. Mike Malone will be one of the one of a handful of coaches in the NBA to be able to say, hey, I got a ring. And moving forward, I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't be considered the favorite to win it all next year.
And kind of, and you know what? Before we get to that, I did want to ask this question. When kind of looking at Nikola Jokic, have we ever seen anybody be so great yet so unexcited
with
the game,
bro.
with the game of basketball? Like he is that person that is great at their 9-to-5 fucking job, but once he's off the clock, he's off the clock.
Man, it's
you
just gotta laugh at the guy though. He really does take this as like a 9-to-5. Like it's a job to him. You know what I'm saying? And he's damn good at it, but it's a job to him. And I mean, I'll say this, to a lot of pure basketball heads, pure basketball guys, to maybe even some athletes or NBA current and former NBA players, it may come off a little disrespectful, because guys really love this game. They pour their hearts and their souls and their time. They sacrifice for this game. And to see kind of how it seems like he treats it as just, it's just another thing, you know what I'm saying? Hey, the parade wins, skip the parade. I'm trying to go home. You know what I'm saying?
But then you got to ask it. Then it makes you ask the question, do they really love the game as much as they say they do? Because Nikola Jokic, who I think has love for the game, but we can go ahead. We can agree that his family and his horses definitely trump his love for basketball. But it's not like he's just this naturally physically gifted person who can just jump on the court and do whatever the hell he wants to do. He has to put in actual time. But maybe it's just his discipline that enables him to put in the necessary work to be great. But he could still have his heart and his passion can still be elsewhere. I ain't gonna lie, it is somewhat of an anomaly because I can't imagine stressing and pouring everything. I'm obsessing over something, and somebody else is just, it's not that deep to them, but they're just better than me. That'd be hard to swallow.
I think that for him, his love for his family and his love for his country probably outweighs his love for the game of basketball. And I think that I'll say this. If this was probably any other athlete in any other situation, he'd probably get murdered for it. But because it's him and because he did just win the championship, it's like kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I mean, what can you say? The man got the job done. Okay. He went out there on his 9-to-5 and he completed the job, all the way. He's seen the job all the way through. So it's like, what can you say about it right now? But yeah, I think his love for family and his love for his country probably outweighs his love for basketball. Not to say that he doesn't love it or that he doesn't care,
but it's not his number one.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like he doesn't eat, sleep, breathe, drink basketball. There are other things that are more important to him. And when you're coming out, when you make it to the mountaintop, hey, how can you argue with the man?
So, okay, last question before we move on to future prospects for the Denver Nuggets. Is this the most dominant postseason run we've ever seen by any one NBA player? One. And two, where does this put him in history? Like, where do we have to put him in history now?
Okay. I'll answer the first question first. This was a historic run by Nikola Jokic. But is it the best single postseason run by, a single player? I'm going to have to lean towards no. Just a couple runs that come to mind. I want to say, well, you can probably say 2000 and 2001, but I think I want to pinpoint on 2001 Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
Just a a flat out monster, 30, 34 and 16, just couldn't the most at that time. He was the most that era. Shaquille O'Neal is the most unstoppable force we've ever seen in the NBA. From about 2000 to about 2004-ish, the most unstoppable force we've ever seen in the NBA. You got 19, you got that 90, I want to say 95. You got that 95 run from Hakeem
Olajuwon, yeah.
Seeing what he did to and doing it to some great defensive centers, you know what I'm saying? Doing it to a David Robinson. Yeah. and I think the Admiral was the MVP that year.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Admiral is also a former defensive player of the year. And I it's crazy. I was just reading a quote, and the Admiral, David Robinson, after that series was over, he was talking about it, and he was saying, you guys might think I'm crazy, but I felt like I guarded him pretty well. And mind you, Hakeem averaged about 35 and 10 or something for that series, just giving it to him, I mean, obviously, Michael Jordan has some runs. His run in 1993, averaging over 30 points for the playoffs. I think he averaged over 40 points in that 1993 finals. He averaged over 40 a game, about 41, I want to say, a game in that 1993 finals against the Phoenix Suns. So there's been some.
LeBron.
I can't disrespect LeBron.
LeBron 2016.
2016. I'd even throw, although he didn't win the championship, LeBron 2018. That playoff run was phenomenal for him, where he hit numerous, game winners and basically just carried those guys on his
willed them. Yeah, he did.
So there's probably not to take away from Jokic. This was a historic run. This was one of the better playoff runs by a single individual, and it will be remembered. But I do think that there have been some better ones.
Okay. So then where do we have to, that being said, based off of his performance and what he just accomplished in the Western Conference, where do we have to put his name? Like, his name will come up in conversations.
Are we talking all time or
we're
right
talking
now
all
currently?
Time. We're talking all time, because I think that's the neighborhood he's in. He's an all-time neighborhood. Where do we have to, when those conversations come up, where do you have to, you're going to interject in the conversation. You're going to be like, oh, let's not disrespect Jokic. He is part of this group. Where do we have to put him?
Okay, so I'm gonna break it down. I'm gonna go by his position, which is the center position, right? Even yet and still, and he's great, but I believe this was his 9th or 10th year in the league. Still has good years left in him, prime years left in him. Still has more to put on his resume. With that being said, if I am to rank him as a center all time right now, he's definitely top 10, a top 10 center.
Okay.
Okay, let's make it easier. I'll put it like this. Right now, I can't put him ahead of Kareem. I can't put him ahead of Shaq. I can't put him ahead of Hakeem. I can't put him ahead of Bill Russell. I can't put him ahead of Wilt. That's 5 right there.
Right.
And then so after that 5, now we're getting into, Moses Malone territory. Now we're getting into, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, maybe, I for my own reasons, I've never been a big Patrick Ewing guy. I will put him ahead of Patrick Ewing. I would say right now he's probably right there. I would say he's right there in between, like maybe that Moses Malone, David Robinson kind of territory. So I would have him anywhere between maybe 6 to 8, 6 to 9, But once again,
he has more.
Yeah, his resume is still being written. He's top 7 probably, and I can agree with that. I wouldn't argue with that. Those first 5 guys, though, I named right now, I can't put him ahead of those guys. And if you want to argue Moses Malone, then I'm not gonna go back and forth with you, but there's at least 5 or 6 guys for sure that I can't put him ahead of So yeah, somewhere between 6 and 8, 6 and 9. That's where I put him.
And let me tell you this for your own safety. Center's the hardest position to crack the top 5. I agree. But
Zay, you are absolutely right, because those first 5 guys that I named, Kareem, Shaq, who did I say? Bill Russell, Hakeem. I mean, there are people that all 5 of those guys. There are people that have all of those guys as their number 1. That's how great those group of 5 guys are. So
I was gonna say this. I know for your own safety, because you're one of my best friends, and I got a lot of love for you. You want a long life to live.
Don't you go have me blushing in front of the people, man.
Please, when you get around these Knicks fans, don't make the Jokic, even though we have our feelings. Don't make the Jokic Patrick Ewing. They might kill you if you say Jokic is close to or better than Patrick Ewing. You might not make it, bro. You might not see another day.
I know he's very beloved up there, and I mean, like I said, he just wasn't necessarily my taste or my flavor. I don't want to take away from him, because he was a collegiate all-star, former number 1 pick. And I mean, he had a great career. He had some really phenomenal years. He got the Knicks to I want to say 2 finals, I believe. I know he got them. Oh yeah, to 2. He was in '94. They lost to Hakeem, and in the lockout shortened season, he was on that '99 team with the Knicks that lost to San Antonio. So I mean, he got them to a couple finals appearances. Michael Jordan kept him. Michael Jordan, kept a lot of hardware. He kept a lot of people. Yeah, he kept a lot of hardware from a lot of people, and unfortunately, Patrick Ewing was one of those guys, man. But I don't know. I will say it's kind of a personal thing for me. I just wasn't a big Ewing guy, and I'd have to put, even right now, I have to put Jokic over Ewing. Ewing,
but Ewing.
I could see that. You know what I'm saying? He's an East Coast guy, like you just said. Yeah. He spent, I think, 3 years at Georgetown. You know what I'm saying? Phenomenal years there. He was a former number 1 pick. And then he was just coaching at Georgetown. I think they actually just let him go this past season, but he was just coached there for a few years. So I mean, I'm sure he's a beloved figure up and down the East Coast and back in, I believe, Jamaica, where he's originally from. But I don't know. He just, not to get too far off topic, he just wasn't my cup of tea, and I put Jokic over him. Sorry.
Yeah, that Knicks fans are passionate, so they'll like, man, you're not going to disrespect.
I will keep that to myself.
Yeah. So jumping into Denver's future prospects, when a team wins a championship, the first question that comes to mind, even before the motherfucking confetti falls, is can they do it again? Are they built to do it again? Moving forward, when you look at this Denver roster, and obviously they're still very useful. I think they're a good useful, because they have just enough experience, but they're not too young. But what do you see from them moving forward? We know the Western Conference is going to be more competitive next year. Guys will be healthier. Teams will make some adjustments. But do you think that they're built to repeat and take the Western Conference again next year?
I do. I honestly, genuinely do. Looking at their roster makeup right now, as far as their core guys, their core group of guys, I think the only guy that's a free agent is Bruce Brown, and I believe he's a restricted free agent. Don't quote me on that, but of their core group of guys who played most of their minutes, I believe Bruce Brown is the only free agent. So, and I can definitely see them,
And if I'm not mistaken, Mike Malone said during just right now when they was doing their parade and they were celebrating, he said Bruce Brown's coming back.
Okay, awesome. So
yeah,
I think he actually Bruce Brown has a player option. So as far as and Jeff Green might be a little indispensable, or a little dispensable, excuse me, but I mean he did play some solid minutes for him. But I think Bruce Brown is probably their number 1 priority in free agency, just bringing him back. And as you said, Mike Malone said that they definitely plan to do so, and I believe that. So, I mean, I don't see why they can't retool and make another run at it. Looking at the landscape of the Western Conference, right behind them, I think they're the clear favorite. Like I said, they'd probably be my right now they're my way too early NBA champion pick right now for next year. But looking at the landscape of the Western Conference, I think right behind them, you have to look at the Lakers. Just keep an eye out for what they do during this offseason. I think they should and they will pay Austin Reeves. I mean, obviously, there's some names that have been thrown around. You've heard Kyrie, obviously, a lot. I don't know if I don't think I'm a huge fan of the move either. But if he was to go anywhere else, I think that would be the most successful situation for him if he did go anywhere else. Bradley Beal, it just came out this week that they're going to be, Washington's going to be seeking a trade. Him working with his agent to seek a trade for Bradley Beal.
They say this shit every year. They've been saying this shit every year for the last 3 years.
I mean, we'll see what happens, man. I think he actually will be on the move. The NBA drafts next week. Don't be surprised if you see him on the move on draft night or sometime shortly after July 1st, which is when the free agency period starts. So don't be surprised if you see him on the move. But I mean, that possibly the Lakers maybe make a play for Bradley Beal,
which would be big for them.
It would. Obviously, if they do that, they probably won't be bringing back Austin Reeves. He'll probably be a casualty. But I think just keep an eye out for what the Lakers will do. I think they finished the season really strong, and I think they'll be able to kind of build off of that momentum. We'll see if they can keep a Rui Hachimura. We'll see what other moves that they make to improve the team. And obviously for them, health is a big deal for them. So we'll see moving into next season if both LeBron and AD can stay healthy. And then I say right there on that same tier with them, and they're another team, we need to see what they do in the offseason. But I would say probably the Phoenix Suns. I mean, obviously they still have you could probably say two of the top 5 scorers in the league with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Word is they'll probably be moving off of Chris Paul. Maybe not. We'll see. But once again, just kind of got to see what they do in the offseason. They may not.
I was about to say, and who did they hire at head coach?
Frank Vogel,
right?
Former LA Laker coach, won a championship in the bubble with the Lakers. I wasn't the biggest fan of that hire, but hey, we'll see what happens, But yeah, they definitely got some holes to fill on their roster. They definitely need to find some depth. I think they definitely need to get a little more athletic on the wings. And they need to figure out this DeAndre Ayton situation. If it was me, I would move off of him personally. But
because he's disinterested. But it might be salvageable,
it may be
with the firing
like
of Monty.
I was going to say it seems like they chose DeAndre Ayton over Monty Williams in the situation, right. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens. They're another team where it's going to be really interesting, and I keep a real eye on what they're doing in the offseason. But yeah, I say Denver the favorite. Right behind them, probably LA and Phoenix, and then behind them, it's just really a bunch of teams with some question marks. Pretty soon we'll be finding out how long Ja Morant's going to be out, so we'll see what that does for Memphis. Dallas missed the playoffs altogether. I suspect. I mean, their hand is almost forced. They almost have to offer Kyrie this contract, otherwise they would have given up. And I'm not even going to go through all the names, but they would have given up all these assets with nothing to show for it. You know? I mean, Minnesota,
but you're hearing rumblings of them moving off Cat.
And I'll tell you what, man, and I'm not going to get off topic, but Pat, Pat,
I already know.
Pat Bev. He did this Pat Bev podcast.
I already.
And I don't know. Like,
Where he
clearly they knocked a few back before they went live. But clearly they put one in the air or something, because some of the remarks that they were making were just blasphemous. But another topic for another day. But Minnesota, they're still young. They still got a lot of maturing to do. Sacramento, excuse me. Sacramento is a team that's on the rise.
Real threat. You could
probably, as a matter of fact, I would put them right there in that tier with the Lakers and with Phoenix. And then after those 4 teams, I mean, the rest is, we'll see what they do in the offseason. Just pick your poison.
And you make a good point, because I think if you look at Denver in the Western Conference, I think you can say the NBA as a whole, but especially the Western Conference, they have that healthy balance of young talent, and they have structure. Like, they have a strong infrastructure in place to go on a 2 to 3 year championship run. Not saying that they're going to continue, but that window will be open for the next, I would say, 3 to 5 years, because of what they have in place. And it's no turmoil. Like, I think it hurts me to see how Phoenix fell apart, because I thought that they had the potential to be good for 5 to 6 years, but it didn't last. Yeah. And we know how it is. Even then, you was a Bulls fan, you grew up watching the Bulls. It is very difficult to keep teams together, keep good teams together. So, but that's Denver. Go ahead.
I wanted to say too, well, first of all, with Phoenix, I mean, I don't think that their championship window is closed. Not quite yet.
It's not as wide open as it was.
It's not. It isn't.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's closed. I think that they have to win this offseason, though. They have to win this offseason. Whatever they decide to do with Chris Paul, whether they decide to bring him back and run it back with him, or whether they move on and need to get a adequate replacement, they have to get some depth. They have to get some depth, and they have to get a little more athletic. And then I didn't want to be disrespectful. I mean, they're 4-time champions, so I'd be disrespectful if I didn't mention them. Golden State, the reason why I don't put them in that second tier in the Western Conference right now is because I truly believe, and we've seen Bob Meyer step down as GM, longtime GM for them, did an awesome job.
Right.
I truly believe that either Draymond Green and or Klay Thompson will not be there next year. And I think both guys are past their primes. I think both guys, their best basketball is behind them. However, I do think that the loss of either or both will be felt tremendously for that specific team, because those are 2 of their most important players. Some people argue that Draymond Green is the glue for that team, and I wouldn't fight you.
I wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would say you make a very strong point, and I was hoping. I mean, first of all, the last championship they had was a surprise to everybody. I don't think anybody expected him to be able to bounce back and win another championship. So that's successful. That's impressive within itself. But sometimes good things come to an end. And,
all good things must come to an end. And so, once again, this is going to be an interesting offseason just to see what direction a lot of these teams, decide to go in.
So, okay, speaking of direction, and now we can finally give the Heat their flowers, a team that made it to the not only went through a murder's row of more talented teams than themselves, and was able to ultimately make it to the finals, and do their best to put up a fight despite, I would say, a huge talent deficit.
Absolutely.
What are some things that you think that, because the Heat is right there, they have the nucleus, they have the coach, they have the work ethic, they have the culture to win a championship. What are some of the things that you think that they need to do? I mean, for me, I always stand on that they need to stop fucking around, and they need to go ahead and get a bona fide number 1 scoring option and just ask them to do that. That's been what I've been saying. But I want to know what you think. What do you think Miami needs to really get over the hump and finally win a championship?
Well, first of all, let me say this. the Miami Heat over the past, few years now, and they've been to the finals twice in the last 4 years. They were obviously this last season they had to get through the play-in and take the AC. Or this season they had to get through the play-in and take the AC. Last season they were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. People forget that. This team for the last few years have honestly been a bunch of overachievers.
Yeah.
You really got, it's really like Jimmy Butler in the crew, especially this season. We're talking about they had 7 undrafted guys on their roster. Bam Adebayo really playing out of position. It's really their only true big. You see them kind of throw Cody Zeller out there they try to spot him some minutes just to give, Bam a little bit of a rest. But this is a really small team with a bunch of undrafted guys, with a bunch of overachievers, and leadership, coaching, and culture. That's the 3 things that have, helped them to overachieve. Leadership, coaching, culture. And so that's what they've been doing. That's what's really been their calling card these last few years. So for them, I do agree. I think they need, and this is no slight at Jimmy Butler. We know the playoff performer that he is. But, and you know what? I think, to quote Stephen A. Smith, because I think he says it best, Jimmy Butler is a star. He's not a superstar.
And I agree.
He's a star. He's not a superstar. And I think for this team to get over the hump, I think they need a superstar to go with this crew. And I think they need to get another true big. They're going to have to get some sort of big, some sort of paint presence. He doesn't necessarily have to be this scorer per se, but they're just so small, and they've been small for a while now. They need to get some other real true big to kind of make his presence felt down there. If they could just get somebody to rebound, to come in and get 10 points, 10 rebounds, that would be so beneficial for them. It doesn't have to be a big name guy or whatever. Somebody who can just come in there and be a presence in the middle for them. I think it'll be extremely beneficial for them.
Well, okay, and I'm glad you said that. The need for a true big. The 2 thing is they need. I think if they would have had, even if they didn't have a superstar with this team, with what they have, like you said, leadership, culture, and just having that strong nucleus, if they can get another bona fide scorer, somebody that can consistently create on their own, I think that changes the tide of what this team is. And the fact that you can play with undrafted guys and win with undrafted guys means you don't need, I think we can go ahead and say this. Eric Spoelstra doesn't need studs on his roster to figure it out, and he's going to put them in a position to make the plays.
The man coaches his ass off.
He coaches his fucking ass off.
He's great at making adjustments. He's great at getting the most and the best out of his guys. Like I said, okay, if you want to stick with Greg Popovich, I'm not going to fight you, but to me, Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the league right now.
And even seeing how he's developed some of these guys who really weren't anything when they came to the NBA, and just helped them carve out niche roles for themselves. Like what we've seen Caleb Martin do. Dude was balling in the playoffs this year. But I look at 2 names, and first of all, last year I was on the train where I really wanted them to explore trading for Donovan Mitchell. Like, I would have loved Donovan Mitchell with this team. I think he could have fat in. I think you could have moved off Tyler Hero, who wanted a bigger role. And I'm not saying he would have done exactly the same thing, but maybe Tyler Hero is getting some of those same scoring opportunities that we saw Lauri Markkanen get, and we saw him make his first. It was, I want to say, he made his first All-Star game. Yeah, so you got to look at something like that. But
I think obviously Donovan Mitchell is a much more lethal scorer than Tyler Hero is, and this is no slight at Tyler Hero because he can get it going. Right. But
Right.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell is a dynamic scorer, and I think that would have been a solid fit to him. I have another name, and this name is being thrown around even this offseason, and that's Damian Lillard. I think if you can get Damian Lillard with this cast of guys, now obviously to get a Damian Lillard, you're gonna have to come off of a Tyler Hero. You're probably gonna send Kyle Lowry over there. You probably and maybe another piece, maybe a I don't know, a Strus or a Caleb Martin in a first rounder or something. You're gonna give up some stuff to get a Dame Lillard, but to get him in there would be extremely beneficial.
But see, this is why I think it's just so great to be Miami, because they're so good at playing with, who we wouldn't say is just these supremely talented guys. They can play with second round and undrafted guys. They can take risks that other teams can't take, and they can give away draft capital that other teams can't afford to give away. So you talk about giving away a Damian Lillard. I would say the biggest blessing they have is having Tyler Hero stashed, because there is value to him. I think we can go ahead. We both believe that Tyler Hero at some point could be an all-star.
They definitely have some guys and some pieces that other teams will be interested in. Even beyond Tyler Hero, teams would be interested in a Gabe Vincent or a Duncan Robinson with his resurgence in these here playoffs. A Max Strus who's streaky but a pretty solid shooter. A Caleb Martin. They got some wings there that teams could definitely be interested in a potential move. And then I think the free agents. Kevin Love's an unrestricted free agent. I'm not sure about him. I think Udonis Haslam's finally gonna hang it up.
Right. That's a roster spot open.
Right. And then Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are both unrestricted free agents, so they have to make a decision as far as bringing either or both of those guys back next year. But I mean, Damian Lillard is definitely I think would be a nice candidate to come and help that team.
And I would love that.
Or Bradley Beal.
Or Bradley Beal. I would give that out, because the thing about when you bring a player there, you have to ask if they can fit in with the culture, especially with Jimmy there. One thing that's going to be completely apparent is whoever they bring, they're going to have to be able to get with the program and coexist with Jimmy Butler. And I think that Jimmy Butler is selfless enough that he would willingly give away scoring opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. He does that. He does that now.
Now, right. to less Malin, to less Malin, or how you say it, not as popular guys. So that would, I'll give you one more name, and you may not like it, and I think it would speak to some adjustments would need to be made, especially from an attitude standpoint. But I mean, let's say they sold the barn and they made some moves and they gave away a lot of draft capital for Cat. That would solve multiple problems, because Cat, the truth is even though we feel like he whines and he can be a little soft sometimes,
the talent's there.
The talent's there. The talent's there. He can be a 25 and 10, 25 and 15 guy. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's just perfect for today's modern day big. And you bring him there, you would allow, well, I guess you would probably still play Bam at the 5, but it would free Bam up to be more of a defense.
I would probably move Bam to the 4 and let Cat play the 5.
And let Cat play the 5. I mean, like I said, you have so many different options, but Cat could come in, step in, give you value as a scorer. And honestly, I think he would draw strength from a Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler would make him a tougher player.
Here's my only pushback with that, though.
Okay, what's that?
They've tried that once before. You remember, Jimmy Butler spent the year in Minnesota.
That is right.
And they didn't quite.
They didn't match.
If you remember, now the famous story of how Jimmy Butler came into practice late, took the practice squad guys and beat the starters, numerous times, and then left up out of there. You know what I'm saying? Calling them soft and all this, then the third, got up out of there. So, I mean, I'm not speaking of ingratiating himself into that Heat culture. I'm not sure if Karl Anthony Towns, especially after these podcast comments, with
it was a little wild.
I'm not sure if he's mature enough to really handle that culture under that coach and under that leadership of Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler would still be a leader on that team.
The man.
So I mean, there's that dynamic there, but I do think definitely Bradley Beal is an option, and definitely Dame Lillard is an option. And then moving forward, make some decisions as far as with Max Strus and with Gabe Vincent, and then just moving forward, they really probably need a big. Like they need a big, a true big. And they can kind of move Bam off. Let me say this: I love Bam Adebayo's game. Like his
physical, he hustles.
versatility, offensively and defensively, is matched by very few people in the league. Like I was listening to Stan Van Gundy, and he was talking about, you know, how everybody talks about players and what they get in a bag, and he was saying, Bam Adebayo's defensive bag is deep. Like we're talking about a guy who can genuinely guard 1 through 5.
Yeah.
In a league where they run so much pick and roll, it's not even funny. So much movement and action is not even funny. To have a big like that who you can have defend in a pick and roll and not think twice about switching it and being confident that he can hang out on a perimeter, you know, with some of these primetime perimeter scoring wings. It's phenomenal, man. And then his performance, he performed so admirably.
He played his heart out.
NBA Finals. He played his tail off, and you know, more power to him, man. I love it. He can play on a team of mine any day.
And that's like I said, and I'll finish with this talking about Miami. It's not. I feel like they're right there. They just need to make a few adjustments, and I think if you do get that scoring option, it takes pressure and it puts people where they belong. Like to me, I love Jimmy, but I think we can go ahead and agree that he is a high-end number 2 option on a championship team. He shouldn't be the number 1 option. It's kind of asking too much of. He's a high-end number 2, and you tell Bam, okay, you're able to settle in as a defender and be more of a number 3, maybe even number 4 scoring option. How dangerous would that be for them?
And a great option he would be, you know.
Yeah.
I think I see multiple, not just all NBA defensive, but don't be surprised if you see him make multiple all NBA teams over his career. I'm talking about Bam. I really like Bam Adebayo.
And he's still fairly young.
Still young. Still got a lot of great basketball left in him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it sucked to see as much. First of all, you know, it sucks seeing 2 teams that you root for kind of make it to the finals because both were great stories. Denver was this, you know, everybody kind of, well, they got disrespected this year, but no one really gave them a chance with some of the big injuries that they had. You know, you saw how emotional it was for Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. had to overcome a lot to play. You mentioned this earlier. And Nikola Jokic, even in all his unexcitedness, we've watched him grow from a pudgy, you know, he's still unathletic, but a pudgy, out of shape second-round pick to being one of the
best player in the
world, right?
Best player in the world.
Yeah, right. And on Miami side, they're just this team that really, and I'm a big fan. I love this in all sports. They're the team that threw a monkey wrench in the program. In an era where the Nets, who I know Swan has loved, he supported the Nets more, man. If I could find a woman that supports me the way that he supports the Nets, I'm telling you, I'm going to the top. But you got the Nets. You have a disappointing Philadelphia 76er team who just could never get over the hump. And just multiple teams that I think if you were to tell me 8 years ago or 6 years ago that Miami would have had the dominant stretch that they've had over the past 5 years, I'd call you a liar with the talent that there is in the Eastern Conference. Yeah. So just to see them make it again and fall short, it is painful to even watch because you root for those guys. But they're right there.
Oh yeah, and I fully expect Miami. Obviously, they got some decisions to make on free agency, but I mean, they'll be right back toward the top of the Eastern Conference, I believe, next year.
Mhm.
Obviously, Boston's gonna, reload and come back. Obviously, Milwaukee's gonna reload and come back. I mean, we'll see what Philly do. It seems like James Harden will probably be on the move.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens as far as Philly goes. They'll still be a really solid team, still be a playoff team. But yeah, it seems like Miami will be right back toward the top of the Eastern Conference. But yeah, man. So, but that's the take on the NBA season. Obviously, actually, NBA draft is next Thursday. So you
It's
guys
coming
check that
fast.
out. You know what I'm saying? See some of these prospects for the future because although I think this draft is a little top heavy, top three guys: Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson. I think you got potentially three
Generation.
franchise, possibly generational players there. And then obviously, I expect some free agent moves to occur that night or shortly thereafter on July 1st. So you guys stay tuned because it's going to be a pretty hot, pretty heavy off season.
Oh, most definitely.
But moving on, we can't talk Ruden sports without talking some football, giving you
A
some
little bit.
football topic, right?
Hmm.
And obviously one of the hotter football topics right now is Saquon Barkley's contract situation. Obviously, Saquon Barkley is star player, star running back for the New York Giants, and he's held out of OTA so far because he's seeking a new deal. For anyone that kind of knows his story, obviously rookie year he shot out. Was he offensive rookie of the year?
He was.
Shot out offensive rookie of the year, took the league by storm. Came back, had a couple injury riddled seasons, and people really kind of started to doubt whether we ever see him get back to form of his rookie year. But then he came back last year, stayed fairly healthy for the most part, and I think he rushed for over 1,300 yards
He did.
and helped to lead the New York Giants to a rather surprising playoff run and even a playoff victory.
Hmm.
Because they beat Minnesota, even a playoff victory. And so now, hey, just like any other star running back, star player, whomever, hey, he wants to get paid. So Kenny, I'm gonna ask you, what do you take of this situation? Whose side would you be on here, or who do you think has the leverage? And how do you think this is gonna play out?
Well, right now, to tell you the truth, I think the Giants have the leverage. And that's because they've made it abundantly clear that they believe in what they're building around with Brian Daboll. And from my understanding, even the organization in the front office, they don't have a key owner, but if it is, we talk about the Morris.
Mara,
But from my understanding, they've made it abundantly clear that they want to give Daniel Jones every opportunity to be the guy on that team, with some of the things that he showed last year. Now for Saquon, I think he is just in a very difficult position where I can't really knock him because he has to do what he has to do. The truth is he wants another contract, and he's going to try to fight for as much as he can fight for. And it comes at an unfortunate time frame. You would have wished or hoped that he could have done this a season ago, because then he probably would have got his payday already. But
You
right
think so?
now, yes.
Even with the injury issues, you think they would have paid him?
Well, let's say he has this season a year ago.
Oh,
If he
well,
has
yeah,
this season,
yeah.
if he has this season a year ago, we're not even having this conversation. But now what you're doing is you're asking for, you want to get what the average. Now you don't want to be the top of the. I think he still wants to be near the top of the current running back market.
Which,
But
correct me if I'm wrong. I know they released him, but Zeke was the highest paid running back.
Zeke was the highest paid running back. And because I think even he was still due to get paid this year. Had he stayed under that current contract, he would have still got paid more than Derrick Henry this year. Mm-hmm. So he was still heavily under contract. But looking at Saquon's situation, you're fighting for a very modest. Let me not use the word modest. You're fighting for a pretty valuable running back contract in a time where the position has all but been devalued. You know, we're seeing star running backs get released. You know, Dalvin Cook got released coming off of I think it was a pretty damn good season.
Yeah.
And the resume just doesn't look as impressive as people think it is. I've always thought that Saquon was talented.
For Saquon?
Yeah, it's not as impressive as you could argue that this was his absolute best season. And you know, running backs get older. You have an injury history. This was the first year where I saw Saquon really perform like a workhorse. Before that, a lot of it was just off of his talent. He's able to do things that other guys can't do. Mm-hmm. But he kind of became more of a workhorse this year. But the truth is, what do we know about workhorses? What do organizations do to workhorses?
They wear them down.
They run their ass into the ground, right? And that's in any industry, any sport. Workhorses get ran into the ground. But what hurts him, and to me, I think what really hurt him the most, is when you look at the end of last season, you really started, and I know I've been big on this guy. This is crazy. I'm a Cowboys fan by trade, right? I grew up a Cowboys fan, but I have probably been one of the fiercest Daniel Jones supporters because I felt like I have. And last year, you really saw towards the second half of the season, you start to see Daniel Jones put on his big boy pants and really say, this is like I can do this shit. And there were some performances where there were actually quite a few performances where Daniel Jones was the focal point, and Daniel Jones would let them in rushing and obviously made some strides as a passer.
He played really well in their playoff win against Minnesota.
He was the best player on the field.
He was.
And this is on a NFL
Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins on the other side, Saquon Barkley in the backfield on his own side. Yeah,
he was the absolute best. So I think that performance kind of made them like, okay, we love you, Saquon, but we're not going to break the bank for you. So, you know, when they initially got into contract negotiations, I want to say they had given him an offer. And from my understanding, he scoffed at the offer, so they took it off the table. I want to say it was for about 13. I don't know the total, but I know it was about 13 or 14 million annually. Right?
I heard. I was reading today, and I heard that they put that offer back on the table just to get the two sides back at the table.
Right.
So, a lot of their New York brass are, you know, slightly hopeful because at least now they are back in conversation. I think with Saquon, I think all the points you made are really adequate. I do think that the Giants do hold the leverage here, but I think and like you said, you know, they really seem to have a lot of confidence in I always want to call him Eli Manning. I don't know why I always want to do that. In Daniel Jones, they seem to have a lot of confidence in Daniel Jones. But I think you also got to add to the argument, and we've been saying this a lot, you know, the running back position just isn't as valued as it once was. You know,
it's
no one is trying to pay a running back, you know, and to Saquon's credit, I've heard him say that he's not even trying to break the running back market.
He said that.
He's just trying to be, you know, fairly compensated, you know, top 5 compensation, which I think I don't think it's absurd for him to ask for that. I'll say that. I don't think that's absurd. But I think he has to realize that he's just a casualty right now because top 5 running, nobody's going to get the top 5 running back money anytime soon.
And think about this. And let me, you know, I know we're just talking about Saquon, but the truth is right now, Josh Jacobs is actually going through the same thing over in Vegas.
And he just led the league in rushing.
Right. But the truth is,
and you mentioned a lot, you know, we just seen, you know what I'm saying, Dalvin Cook coming off a 1,300 yard season.
If Dalvin Cook,
they let him go.
Listen to me. If Dalvin Cook can get released, Saquon Barkley might need to humble himself. Josh Jacobs, the truth is, he had a great season, but it could really be an anomaly. It could be a one-off season. And we've seen that. Watch this. How many times have we seen running backs in this league go crazy and we never hit? And bro,
don't get me started. But you look. You remember
say
Peyton
his name?
Hillis?
Yeah, I remember Peyton Hillis.
Bro, come on, man.
Look. I'm gonna tell you this. Sean Alexander was the best running back on the planet.
Sean Alexander was MVP 1 year and was out the league like 2 seasons later.
Yeah. Like this is just the reality of this position. And we're seeing the successful teams move towards more of that 2 to 3 back rotation system where they carve out roles. And I think for Saquon is with the history. That's why I said if this happens a year earlier, we're not even having.
If he has the season though, a year earlier.
If he has the season, but now and once again the same thing for Josh Jacobs. People forget they declined Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option. So we saw him do all this. This is a contract year. That man was running for his life. He was running for his Raiders' life. So.
And you could argue previous to this season last season that he had kind of underachieved.
Yeah, people were starting to use the B word. We throw it around a little softly, but people were using the B word coming to this year about Saquon.
Bust.
Yeah. I try to say it because it's kind of like, it's kind of as a rough word, a very insulting word to throw out. But that just shows you how much that these guys struggle. And Saquon said it himself coming into this season that last year he had lost confidence in himself. And he said he was would look at himself in the mirror and asking himself, like, can he still be that guy that he used to be? So, and I hate to say it like this, you can't get mad at an organization for, maybe being a little tight-fisted or not making you or giving you just this humongous contract. If this is just, you were just that guy 12 months ago.
Yeah.
12 to 15 months ago, you were this unconfident guy. Now I know things change, but you have to look at just recent trends, and we don't know what Saquon's going to look like next year. We don't know if his body is going to hold up. Go ahead.
So, how do you think this situation ends? How do you think there comes to resolution?
I think they're going to figure it out because I think it's in their best interest to stay and to figure it out, because Saquon Barkley is still very valuable because of not only what he can do as a runner, but what he can do as a receiver. And this is a team that, even though they've added talent in Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt, and I think they had a few other free agent pickups, and they've had some guys emerge. They still can use a heavy dose of what Saquon brings to the table. So I think that they're gonna come to an agreement. You may see his potential annual yearly earning numbers go up, but it's going to be very incentive based on health and performance. You may see them move a lot of money around, and he may get a lot of possible bonuses. They might move some of it into bonuses. They get very creative with these NFL contracts, but they're going to put him in a position where, hey, you don't have room to fall off and be mediocre. You're going to have to be the same player that you was last year. That's who you have to be for the next 3 years for us. So I think they're going to figure it out and come to the table. If not, I mean, let's be honest. What is Saquon going to do? Like, what do you where do you realistically see it? So they franchise tagged you. So I mean, maybe you're gonna. I don't know. I just don't see them moving off of him. So
I agree. I do think that they come to some sort of agreement. I don't think Saquon may be getting the number that he might be hoping for, but I think they do kind of compensate him a little more fairly. I think they will come to some sort of agreement where I ain't gonna say either side will be ecstatic, but both sides will be okay to get him into training camp in a couple weeks and get the season rolling. Because like you said, he's a very, very important part of what they do. Yeah. They really are a team that's going to, really heavy on running the football with both of those guys, he and Daniel Jones in the backfield. Right. So I do think they get him in. I want to ask you one last thing. I don't know if you noticed before we get out of here. Speaking of holdouts, apparently J.K. Dobbins has been sitting out in Baltimore. He's been showing up, but not working out. Anything to that situation for you?
Well, remember, J.K. Dobbins was very, 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 very vocal about his role in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for him, it's less about money and it's more about respect and just truly being given the opportunity to be more of a presence and them to put more emphasis on him in that offense. So I think
especially after was it the playoff loss when they tried to sneak with Huntley? He was really upset about that.
He was sick
with the fumble at the goal line. Yeah.
He
against Cincinnati,
against Cincinnati, which Baltimore actually gave Cincinnati all they could handle.
They played their tails off.
They did. They played
you can argue they lost that game more than Cincinnati.
And I would agree with that because I remember watching that game. I was live at 5 watching that game. But I think that's where a lot of it lies. Maybe I know. Maybe money has something to do with it, but the truth is he doesn't really have the leverage to ask for money right now because he's been injured. He's battled some injuries. Mm-hmm. But for him, I think it's a respect thing and just making a smart. I think you have to look at it from his standpoint. Okay, I have to question whether this team is going to give me the opportunities that I want, and I'm coming off of 1 or 2 years where injuries was a little murky for me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to take a step back, show him that I want more. And at the same time, and the thing is, you got to also say this. He's a guy that's still on his rookie contract. If they want to trade him, he's very tradable.
Yeah.
So it's not a dumb decision by him because he has I think he has 1 more year left. I think this is the last year on his rookie contract.
Yeah.
If a team wants to take a flyer and they want to give up some draft capital or give up a player or something for him, it could work out and he could go somewhere where he's going to get a lion's share of the carries and the team's going to be able to evaluate, okay, this is what we want to pay this guy going into the next season. But for him, I think that's actually a smart play. And I'm actually on his side in that deal because the truth is we don't know what his role will be in Baltimore. They still love Gus Edwards. They love the hell out of Gus Edwards.
And you led me right into the point that I was going to make before we get out of here, though. I do think he has to be careful because granted, he was RB1, but he wasn't necessarily the bell cow back. You're right. Yeah. They do love Gus Edwards, and obviously they're not afraid to allow Lamar Jackson to use his feet. He does it all the time. So I think that's a situation that he has to be careful with. And I think you might see them open up the passing game a little more, especially with the acquisition of OBJ, who Lamar Jackson was just saying that he's extremely impressed with what he's seeing from OBJ and the connection that they're having. So,
first of all,
they might have to look careful.
First of all, the weapons that they have, they're gonna throw the football more. If they don't, it'll be a mortal sin. They are improved receivers wise from top to bottom. OBJ, I think, will slide right in and will be a even if he doesn't play to the level he played when he was in LA. He's gonna be a far
threat. Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be a good enough number 1 option. Probably, and here's the sad part: one of the best number 1 options that they've had, probably the best number 1 option that they've had receiver wise since they had Anquan Bolden in the building.
Yeah, and that's no shade at Rashad Bateman either. Like I still think the talent's there. I still think he can really be a solid receiver. In this league, and actually, I think. If OBJ can stay healthy, I think you'll see a lot of things open up for Rashad Bateman. And obviously, they still got Mark Andrews.
And then they drafted blanket. And then they drafted Zay Flowers, who's going to have a presence.
Oh yes, Zay, yeah.
And they're impressed by him. So I think you have to look at things from JK's standpoint. And he's like, yo, I don't even know what the hell my role is going to be in this thing. Why would I put my body on the line, or why would I put myself in a position to get nicked up or anything? Put myself on the line where I don't even know if this team values me the way that I want to be valued. So he's making the right business decision. He showed up. It's not like he just didn't show up at all. He's there, but he's just not participating. And that's a very smart play. You're showing teams that I'm committed to coming here and putting in the work and learning the playbook. I just need to know where things are moving forward before I can really put my name in a hat as being one of the guys on this team. So, but I will, that's football, and we're a lot of stuff coming up. Training camp will be starting here pretty soon. But I did have to kind of jumping back to basketball. I did want to ask you this. Okay. And we got some, and guys, the reason why I'm going long because we got some news. Kind of unfortunate, but but I think it's positive. But that's why I'm going long. I want to get everything out the way. This Zion Williamson thing, right? Which is crazy. And I mean, you're getting to a point.
He got himself in quite the pickle.
Right? But you're getting to the point with. I'm gonna ask you this: if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, is the juice worth the squeeze anymore?
Whew, man, that is a great question. That is a great question. All right, so I'll say me personally, I'm not giving up on them quite yet. Now, unless there's some things in-house that are going on that we don't quite know about, and obviously a lot about his personal life has came out, and now he's not necessarily being looked at in the greatest light, and it especially looks bad for a guy who can't seem to stay on the court, but he seems to be able to be fully invested into all these other off the court activities. And hey, I mean, to each his own. God bless him. I pray for the best, and him working out that whole little triangle or square or however many it is. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully he works that out. But it's just not a good look in NBA circles from a basketball standpoint that, he just doesn't seem like he's really focused on playing basketball, on getting and staying in shape and being the phenomenal player that we've seen him be. Because when he's on the court, he's productive. If I'm not mistaken, in the games that he did play this year, he was averaging about 27 a game. Right. At one time early in the season, New Orleans was as high as the number 3 seed back in about December, January.
Yeah, they had a little stretch. Yeah, they had a stretch.
They were solid. And, obviously, I think he and Brandon Ingram ended up kind of getting hurt at the same time. And the next thing we know, Zion Williamson's out for the rest of the season again, So me personally, I wouldn't quite give up on him yet. I would give him this season.
Is he walking a thin line though?
Oh yeah. Like if they don't get 60 to 65 games out of him this season, or if the team doesn't quite make that leap that they're talented enough to make, next season you might try to see what you can get for him, especially if he's able to play. If he's actually able to play 60, 65, 70 games next year, you just don't make the playoffs, he may be able to kind of increase his value just a little bit, and you might be able to get him off. Because, I mean, when he's on the court, he's a very, very, very effective player. Dynamic. You can't keep him out of the paint. He still has some work to do on his game, but for what he does do, he's dynamic at it. He's a very efficient scorer around the bucket. He's a freak of nature. You can't keep him out of the paint. I mean, he's like I said, he was getting about 27 a game before he got hurt. So, I mean, very, very dynamic guy. I would give it one more season, but he's definitely sliding on thin ice. If they get to All-Star break and the season's not looking good,
you'd move off of him.
I definitely consider it.
And I think that the hard part is, obviously in sports, it becomes a what have you done for me lately? And the thing about Zion is that we've always harped on is that he's had issues staying on the court right? Issues with his weight,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe his conditioning, right? So there have been questions there. But one thing we were always, at least we thought, we were always able to fall back on is this is a good kid.
Stand-up guy, yeah.
This is a stand-up kid. And here's the thing. Watch this. Let me stop. I'm not gonna hate, this isn't no hating and stuff like that. I respect the game. I get it. But you can't, you gotta move like a man, and you can't let your dirty laundry get aired out like that. That looks very bad as well. And this was a guy who at some point you saw pundits and NBA executives tout him as possibly the next face of the NBA.
Yeah.
And I think that now we can, I mean, I hate to say it's all said and done, but it's just one of those situations where he was never really all that marketable. But now you look at this situation, it kind of comes off a little bit as immature, not really knowing how to handle the luxury and what comes with living that NBA lifestyle. And so it just looks really, really bad on his part. So I always wondered
the top of that 2019 class as a whole isn't looking good when you consider what's going on with Ja Morant. So
dang, and I remember I was so hellified. Man, you couldn't tell me nothing. I'm like, man, Ja Morant is mature, and that shit he said, I don't know. He made a mockery of me. But
man, I think he gets, and I would be, first of all, if it's me, he gets at least half the season. I would say between 41 to 50 games. If it's me, I think if he gets anything less than that, they're really playing with fire. Like if he gets if he gets anything less than half a season, they're playing with fire. Like they have to send it. Somebody has to send a message to this kid immediately. Like somebody has to help him get it immediately. Otherwise, I'm fearful that we're going to see a very sad story. Yeah. Somebody needs to reach him immediately. I
agree. And you're right that the top, this 2019 class is not looking too swell right now. At least when Ja's been on the court, he's been, he's been effective.
Oh yeah, I mean nothing.
All his issues. All his issues have been disciplinary wise.
Yeah,
Zion
outside of LeBron, he's probably he's probably one of the, outside of LeBron, he's probably the best player that you pay your money to go see. Like, right, you're gonna get your money's worth going to see him. So
yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. So yeah, Zion has less of an argument because he hasn't been on the court as much. So exactly. Yeah, I had to ask you about that because it was something that was kind of ringing my brain. I said, man, it's not looking good right now. So I wonder what this organization. They were saying that there were rumblings that team were ready to move off Zion to pick one of the new guys coming in the draft.
I've been hearing that too, possibly trying to flip him to get up for Scoot Henderson,
right?
Point guard from the G League Ignite. Really, he's been compared, and it sucks to make this comparison. He's been he's been compared to Russell Westbrook. Do with that as you may. You know what? I'm gonna flip the script. I see him as, I'm not gonna say Russell Westbrook. I'm gonna throw another name out there. I think he's a young John Wall. I think he's a young John Wall.
Is he a better score? Is he a better scorer than John Wall coming in? Does he have more of a scoring back?
I think they're really, really similar. They both were dynamic in the open floor. I think, and John Wall was pretty athletic. I think this kid is a little more athletic. He has like a Russell Westbrook build. Like, he's a stocky kid. You know what I'm saying? He already has a NBA body. I think for me right now, it's kind of still up in the air whether he's a true number one or more of a combo guard. So I guess that's still to be seen. But if as far as athleticism, he checks the box. As far as scoring in the open floor, he checks the box. As far as his one-on-one game, like the kid can go, man. He has some tools in his bag, man. The kid can go. little more improvement is needed on his jump shot. However, you can see that it's there. Like it's just you just want to see him be at that position, at that size. You just want him to see him be a little bit more of an elite shooter. But that's not to say that he can't shoot. You can see, like, unlike some other guys, you can see that the potential is there for growth in his jump shot. So, yeah, I mean, he won't get past number 3, the third pick. I'd be highly surprised if he gets past the third pick.
So they'd have to give up a king's ransom.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know.
It seems like the teams that are up there,
New Orleans, hypothetically, okay, they move off of Zion. They're probably gonna. I'm not sure. I mean, how the fit would go. They still got CJ McCollum, so I feel like now you really got 2 combo guards in the backcourt, and they just spent the number 7th pick last year on a kid, Dyson Daniels, who was also with the G League Ignite last season.
Yeah.
And he's a point guard, taller guy though. He's a 6'7" point guard, pretty solid defender. He showed some flashes toward the end of the season, you know, as far as being a rotational guy. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay, last question, and then we'll close out. How big of a win percentage jump does San Antonio make with Victor Wembanyama? Like how impactful do you think he can be year one?
Okay. Obviously, he's gonna have to get in the weight room. They're gonna have to get him on some sort of diet. Get him, you know, put a few pounds on him. To answer your initial question, as far as improvement in win percentage, I think they'll win more games. I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay.
I do think they'll win more games. I think that Victor Wembanyama will show flashes. He will show why he was the number 1 pick, why he's considered a generational talent. And I actually think that around about the middle of the season, towards the end of the season, when he truly get used to the NBA game and gets used to the physicality and really learns a little more as far as the X's and O's, the ins and outs of the NBA game, I think that's when you're really going to see him really take off. He has the NBA game now. I mean, the kid's 7'3", 7'4" with this long wingspan. He has the handles of a guard, and he can stroke it. If nothing else, they should be able to run pick and pop. So Victor Wembanyama, like it's nobody's business, because the kid can stroke it. He can really shoot it at that size. So I think you'll see him play a lot of pick and pops. I think you'll see a lot of kind of reverse pick and rolls where I think instead of him setting the picks, I think a lot of times you'll see off ball a lot of smaller guards setting a pick on his man, just to kind of get him away from bigs and get him a more favorable matchup against smaller guys and allowing him to operate in that manner. So I think he's going to show flashes. I think he has just as good a chance as anyone of being rookie of the year in the NBA. I think they'll win more games, but they won't make the playoffs. But I think that he'll make them, he'll continue to improve. And I think that he'll make them a very serious option in free agency, because I think you might see people
excited to
come play with him. Yeah.
And I'm sure Pop is like ecstatic right now, because he's like, man, this is like a second win for me. He's going
to a phenomenal organization, another organization with really great culture, an organization that's extremely familiar with foreign prospects.
Right.
You know, all the foreign guys they had come up and through there. So I think the transition will be really, really smooth. He'll have a few growing pains, just like any other, young star, especially with all the expectations for him. He'll have a few growing pains, but ultimately I think he's gonna be special.
And I'm excited to see what it materializes into. I know that was a place that I think, from my understanding, he preferred to go to San Antonio. He wanted to go there.
And
So
and
he
you
was.
can see why, like I said, they have so much experience with foreign guys, especially with Tony Parker, was from France,
Mhm.
and Wembanyama is of French descent. I know he and Tony Parker have a pretty solid relationship, and so yeah, I think it'll be an easier transition than maybe with any of these other teams. And I mean, I'm trying to think about their roster right now. They got the
I
kid,
mean,
Keldon Johnson.
They
Yeah,
still they got
they took Jeremy
Sochan was pretty good.
Sochan. Yeah, they took Jeremy
Yeah.
Sochan last year, who's a really nice, piece for him. I think Keldon Johnson led them in scoring this season. I always get them mixed up. They got the other Jones kid. It's Trey and Tyus. I'm not sure which one they got, but they got one of those Jones kids who's pretty solid at point guard. So yeah, man,
They got
I
some
think
pieces.
they're young. They are going
Mhm.
young. And yeah, I think he'll definitely show his flashes. I think by the end of the season, he'll definitely show why he was the number one pick. And moving forward, I think he's gonna have a really great career. I really think he's gonna be special, and he's gonna give Pop a few more years. I think you'll see Pop there for a while coaching his kids.
Probably for another, give him a second win, because I feel like if nothing like this came out, I thought Pop was on. I thought it was time. Thought he was gonna call it.
Yeah. I mean, and he's had a hell of a career. I mean, obviously a top 5 coach all time, 5-6 coach all time, probably higher. I may be playing him short, but he's had a hell of a career.
100%. So, yeah, I mean that is pretty much it today. We wanted to get caught up on basketball, talk a little bit of football, and just kind of really fill you guys in. So we do have some news, right? I think it's a positive, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're gonna be taking. We've been going week to week. We've been giving you guys pretty much week to week for the past year and some change. We're gonna take a short break to make a few changes, a few upgrades to the podcast. We'll be working hard on that.
Dot some
And
I's, cross some T's,
cross some T's, yeah. And we will be back. We'll give you guys an update, but we're looking at being back at least the first week. Or within the first 2 weeks of August, right? So we'll be getting there right as training camp and stuff is heating up. We can talk about some of those things. And we gotta congratulate, right? Another big reason he was going to take some time anyways. My guy, my best friend, my co-host is bringing another life into this world.
Man,
and he's
four and no more. Okay. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The next time you guys see me, I will have baby number 4. Okay. Miss Nova. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the next time you see me, my wife will have given birth to her. And done. Cancel Christmas. Okay. That'll be 3 girls and a boy I have given to society. I have done my job. I have been fruitful and multiplied. Okay. Cancel Christmas and New Year's. Okay. I'm putting up the jersey. This is the victory lap. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Jersey in the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
So yeah, we gotta give him, definitely time to be with family. Everyone knows when a new baby comes, it's an adjustment. You got to figure out what the schedule is going to be moving forward. So he was going to regardless, he was going to take some time and kind of focus on that, him and Amber. So I just wish them nothing but the best. And in the meantime, Rooted in Sports will be back within the next, within the next 5 to 6 weeks. So just be patient with us. But we're looking at ways to just to continue to make the product better. I talked about this. So we still got some polls. We'll be putting out some things of that nature. And I will be giving you guys updates on the Rooted in the Sports IG page. And, may even do some reels or some lives. We're going to work through it. But we just wanted to make sure that we took some time to go back to the drawing table and see how we can give you guys a better Rooted in Sports product.
Word. Yeah. Most definitely. We will continue to carry on with Rooted in Sports community. Obviously,
that's not going to stop.
Every Saturday over Twitter Spaces. It's 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you guys can definitely still continue to come on there and duke it out, verbally, you know what I'm saying? Be heard, you know what I'm saying? Such a great platform, man. We this past Saturday, man. Boy.
Yeah.
It be going down in there, man. Hey, if nothing else, our boy Kev, boy, he gonna get it going.
He's the catalyst to of Rooted Sports. So yeah, no, Rooted Sports community
shout out to Kev, man.
Yeah, Rooted Sports community will continue. We'll continue every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll keep going with that. So you guys can tap in with us on that in the meantime, and also just catch some of the old episodes if you ever want to, just jot back and look at some of our older content. But yeah, I mean that's it. What else? Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, obviously, King Tiberius with the sports exclusive podcast. He gonna keep coming to y'all with that fire. He gonna keep bringing y'all that heat. You know what I'm saying? So definitely go ahead and follow that. Follow him on Instagram. Also like and subscribe to the YouTube page. That's the Sports Exclusive Podcast.
The Sports Exclusive Podcast, yeah. And that is every Wednesday. We got about 7 to 8 more episodes, and season 1 will be wrapped up. But it's been fun, and yeah, we got a lot of good content in on that podcast as well. So yeah, tap in with that.
Word. So yeah, man, we trust we will be back. A slight hiatus. We listen when NFL season, when training camp roll around. Look, we coming and we finna bring it to y'all for sure, man. But in the meantime, in between time, man, you guys definitely try to work through these little dog days. If anybody that's not a baseball, go to a baseball game. Go. These are, they kind of call these the dog days of summer. But hey, man, go. If you're not interested in baseball, man, go see a baseball game.
I might have to pull up to Petco.
Man, I might have to pull up to the stadium in Arlington, man. Go see a Texas Rangers game, man. For real. It's literally 12 minutes away. So definitely gonna have to pull up and see a few of those games this summer, man. But yeah, man, you guys, definitely go ahead and get out there. Be on the lookout for that NBA draft next Thursday on the 22nd of June. Yeah, be on the lookout for any little news, NFL, NBA related. And we'll be right back in time too, because we will be hitting y'all with this college football heat too. We're definitely gonna make a concerted effort to get into some of this college football too, because we will not slight them this year. This is going to be a very exciting.
No, yeah, we got to give them their flowers this year. So yeah, well, it's going to be fun, right? And then when we're back, we will give a little update on what our thoughts was on the NBA draft and things of that nature. So yeah, so a lot of stuff to catch up on, like I said, but time will go by fast. Hey, look. August isn't that far away. Look, we're already about to be in July, right?
Seriously.
So we'll take some time. But outside of that, man, you got anything else?
No, that's it, man. As always, much love. God bless. Thank everybody that has tuned in and everyone that will tune in. And we'll see y'all in a few weeks.
See you in a few weeks, right?
Word.
Peace
out.